The million-dollar question, how strong is the evidence that supports climate change? Let's cross live to our Washington studio. Priya Sridhar is there. Let's try and get a grasp on it from that part of the world this morning. Priya, are more Americans questioning the proof, the whole theory, indeed, of climate change, and who's responsible for it?
Hi, Kevin. Well, it's obvious that more Americans are starting to question climate change. A new poll shows that less than 60% of Americans believe that there's sufficient evidence proving global warming, and that's down from 70% last year. And joining me to help talk about this is Patrick Michaels, Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute and climate expert. Patrick, thanks so much for joining me. So first of all, I want to talk about the email exchange that's now known as the ClimateGate scandal. In those emails, there were many scientists that were threatening you. How do you feel about that, and why is this whole ClimateGate scandal getting everyone so fired up?
Well, the emails reveal a remarkable thin-skinnedness. These people are very sensitive to any type of criticism. They did not want to let their climate data out for public scrutiny. They tell each other to delete their emails concerning the reviews of the United Nations' latest big report on climate. And the subject matter for the email is FOI, Freedom of Information. It's just very bad. The worst part of it, though, are the attempts to shade and control the scientific literature. You know, the scientific literature, as you know, is all we have to depend upon.
And so does it make you nervous at all that all these scientists are gathered together in Copenhagen right now?
Well, I think we just saw another example of politics intruding upon science and scientists trying to be political. When the World Meteorological Organization and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration here in the United States announced that we have just gone through the warmest decade in recorded temperature history. Well, excuse me, but decades begin in the year 01 and they end in a year that ends in 0. They chose a very non-traditional period to make an announcement in order to influence a political conference. Let's just tell the truth about what's going on here. Scientists are trying to influence policy.
And so are you worried that that influence might end up in a sort of green revolution that will end up changing our habits and the way we live?
Well, what President Obama wants from Copenhagen is to commit the United States to an 83% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions by 2050. That's only 40 years from now. That would allow the average American's emissions of 1867. No cars, no electricity. I don't know how we're going to substitute 83% of our fossil fuel-based energy with I don't know what. So yes, it commits the United States to a very serious situation, and I think scientists ought to be very careful about cheerleading. You know, one of these scientists that's in these emails, Mike Holm, did try to create a petition over one of the earlier climate conferences, and then they wrote something called the European Climate Scientist. He now realizes that was a very wrong thing to do. But he is one of the people that's very heavily involved in ClimateGate.
And I know that you don't believe that climate change is man-made.
No, that's not true.
Well, okay, so tell me what you think.
No, the planet's warmer than it was, about 0.8 of a degree Celsius. There were 2 warmings in the 20th century, one from 1910 to 1940, about 0.4 of a degree. Then it cooled a little, and then it warmed from 1975 through 1998, and now it hasn't done anything.
And why was it warming in those periods?
The second warming likely has some input from carbon dioxide in it. The first one cannot, because we hadn't put enough carbon dioxide in the air. That's not the point. The argument that seems to really get these people mad, where Ben Santer from Federal Laboratory says he would like to beat the crap out of me, the argument is, in fact, that human beings are causing warming. They're just causing less warming than is in general indicated by our computer models, and therefore we need to adjust our computer models for reality. For that, you get punched out. For that, these people try to intimidate the editors of scientific journals because they published that paper. What kind of world is this?
And, you mentioned President Obama and the carbon dioxide restrictions. I mean, what is the motivation behind what he's doing there?
Well, Well, President Obama's motivation is to fulfill what he said he would do in the campaign, which is he said that he would actively involve the U.S. in international emissions reductions for carbon dioxide. He doesn't have a clue how you reduce emissions 83% by 2050, because no one has a clue. But yet he will commit the U.S. to this course. China and India are not committed to this course. They're not going to commit to such a course. And as a result, everything that we do will have virtually no effect on the climate except to make us poorer.
Well, the climate change debate is heating up, and that's all the time we have for now, Kevin. It's back to you.
Yeah, Priya, so many people with so many different views on it, so polarised, aren't they, as well? Good to hear from Patrick Michaels there, a senior fellow as he is in environmental studies at the Cato Institute in Washington, and reminding our viewers as well that this whole interview will be on our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube, type in RT, and you can find it all there and have your say about it as well. Thanks, Washington, D.C. tonight.